Good evening, everyone. We're starting the meeting. The Economic Development Committee, May 18th, 2022 meeting at 6:50 p.m. This meeting is being recorded. And I think Peter is going to read us the open meeting law.
All right, y'all ready?
Yeah.
All right. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Hubbardston Economic Development Committee will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town website. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via Zoom. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the town's website a comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting.
Thank you.
The end.
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, very good. All right. So I sent everybody the minutes when back in March, actually, yeah, from February back in March. That was February was our last meeting. And so has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes?
Yeah, in March.
Well, they haven't changed.
Yeah.
Okay, any comments?
No.
Okay. Motion to accept the minutes?
Second.
Were you asking for a motion or were
I
you
was
making
asking
a
for a
motion?
motion. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's why I was like, what?
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, it's okay.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, there we go. Okay, let me go back to this.
We still got to vote. You got to
Yeah.
do roll call.
Yeah, okay. Katie,
Yes,
Peter,
Present.
I think it's for Christopher.
Yes.
Okay, it's to accept the minutes. Okay, now.
Oh,
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
Now
Yes.
I have, hold on just a moment. There we go. Okay, bring that back up. There we go. Okay, wowza yowza. Very good. Okay. Still, I don't see Cheryl on this and she hasn't responded to my text. Okay. So we will proceed with the with our agenda. There we go. Okay, so first on the agenda, under old business is Hubbardston Business Tours. And, you know, they have been a little willy-wally because Denise resigned and we just haven't had an opportunity to get more than one person together, myself, to do some of these tours, although we have a couple of places lined up. So I'd like to know if I can get a volunteer or, yep, right now, I think Katie, can we do, I'm asking, can we do more than 2 people? If we're 5, no. Unless
we can't have more than 4. So 4 is, if you do 4, then you have to do a, you have to put it in as a meeting.
Okay, we can't do more than 4, but even with only 5 members?
Because we're a 7-member board.
Right, okay, so we still, okay, so we're still, okay, so anything beyond that. Okay, so I can I get a volunteer, 1 or 2 people to attend these tours, these business tours?
I can help. I can go.
Okay.
Go.
Okay, is there a day of the week that's better for you, Peter, than than another?
When are we talking about?
Well, I mean, 1 or 2, well, actually Jane is open again, full time, if you will. One of our businesses is only open Thursday through Sunday. So could we maybe do Thursday? Would that be workable?
Yeah, what week?
I'd like to do it this week if possible.
This week's fine. Yeah, I'm open.
Well, that would be tomorrow.
Yep, I'm open.
Okay, let's try for tomorrow then, okay? And we'll say maybe 10:30.
Where?
Well, we can meet here or we can meet at a time and a place. Do you know where that is?
That's on the corner, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yep,
Right on your street?
yep. Mm-hmm.
That's fine. Is that the first business we're going to?
It is. Yep. And then I was at Jane's the other day and it looks, pretty, fully stocked. Looking real nice, real welcoming. And so, good time to take photographs. So we can just jump across the street.
Okay.
Okay, terrific. Thank you for that. Okay, and then just to let you know, I'm a little bit behind on this because we don't have a secretary, so I'm trying to do the minutes at the same time. Okay,
Yeah.
so
So who's
just-
going? You, myself, and who else? Just the two of us?
could
I
be.
Okay.
Katie, can you? Okay,
Yeah.
terrific.
I said it 3 times.
Oh, didn't hear you at all. Did you?
that's-
Okay.
It's hard with Zoom. If we talk over each other, that's the part of I put it in my phone. I'll be there at 10:30.
Okay, terrific. Thank you.
Worst comes to
Alright.
worst, it'll be a surprise. I just show up.
That could happen too. That could definitely happen. Okay, next is the Hubbardston Small Business Guide. And I know that Peter mentioned this at the all board / committee meeting the other night. The guide has been completed. I did get some additional information. Thank you, Katie, for reaching out. Peter and I had no luck, but okay, we got the information we need. And I was able to convert the PDF file, so it didn't have to be rewritten. And it's getting sent out to all of the departments that are included in it for their final approval, if they want to pull anything out or change anything. Once that happens, we'll immediately put it online. And I would like to make maybe about a dozen hard copies and have a few maybe at the library, at the post office, and in town hall. And so that by June 1st for sure, and if not before then. Okay, does anyone have any questions or comments about that? No? Okay.
Nope.
Okay, so now the town center overlay district bylaw. I will tell you, I've had some difficulty. I think that Jennifer had a couple of emergencies actually in her household, and so there's been a lot of time between my reaching out to her and getting a response. She did send me the other day, and I'm going to pull it up real fast. She sent me a new survey that she had done for us, and let's see. Okay. Okay. So this document that she's been working on touched base on the zoning analysis, historic district reviews, case studies, and recommendations. And most of the towns that she included were recommended as by Alice, as she had recommended to me, what we're calling peer communities. She also added Bolton, Warner, New Hampshire, and Bristol, Rhode Island, which I thought was unusual. What does anybody think about that? Do you think that that they would be ideal, let's say, or acceptable peer communities to include in these documents, in these surveys?
It depends upon how we're trying to move the data. Bolton is very different from us.
Yes, on that, right? Yeah, we know that from, yeah.
Well, so there's been this trend kind of pushing out from Boston over the years for development, and Bolton, being significantly further east, is significantly further along that track than we are. And like, you can physically see that, like if you just drive out in the back roads and just point your car east, Um, there's kind of a bedroom community line that's pushing itself further out, that's knocking on our door now, and they're well inside that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my concern from it. I'm not sure that they truly are an equivalent community, but I don't know how many communities there are that are really in kind of that same spot where the new wave pushing out from the rather from the city hasn't really quite hit them yet. Because
Right.
like when you look at like the rural 11 communities, they're probably actually some of the best analogs for where we're at. Rural 11 is are the towns that are covered by the Central Mass Planning Commission. So
Okay.
instead of MRPC,
Ah,
CMRPC.
okay.
And they're essentially all the towns to our south and all the other towns in the school district with us. They're arguably a better source, although maybe what she's thinking with it is getting a town that's further along on the curve is helpful from that standpoint to not just have it be pure towns,
Mhm.
but they're not a pure town for us, I guess, is the short of that really long way to talk about it.
Okay.
Um,
Go ahead.
Whitney,
Yeah.
what was her reasoning for having Rhode Island and Warren, New Hampshire in the mix?
They were included in the peer communities that Alice had sent to her.
Okay.
Let me verify that, whether she said it, she had decided to include it on her own. No, she said, and I added in Bolton, Warner, and Bristol. That's what she said. She didn't give a reason for doing that.
Okay.
She didn't. Now, I know that I sent everybody, or everybody has information about the peer communities. If maybe we could go through that, everyone individually, see if there are maybe one or two other communities that you think might be more suitable for this, because she's asking for whether this is acceptable to us, what we think about it. If we want them changed out for any reason, we can change them out. So, take a look at those and the list, and
I don't have that list.
okay.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah,
where it
I'm
is.
not sure that I have that either.
Okay, well, I will send that to everybody. I will tell you there, Princeton, Westminster, Rutland, Templeton, and there's maybe two or three others. I've always included them in my correspondence, like referred to them, but I'll send
Mhm.
everybody the list itself, and we'll go through, that and just make that decision. And it should only take us a couple of days, and I get right back to her, and she can make those adjustments. Okay. Hold on. Okay. She also said that she's included and by the way, I did when I received this, and it had been about a month and a half since she responded to me. I immediately emailed her and called her, haven't heard back from her, and then emailed her again. Because there were a couple of things that I wanted to speak to her about before speaking with you, but she had included a revised survey based on feedback. And she said that she didn't include some of the recommendations, such as specific expansion suggestions, as it's very difficult to ask this in a survey. And she said that the audience taking this survey are residents and people who may work in town, but not intended for the businesses. The photos are not meant to be a specific place, town, but a more generic to get the point across. I use some images that are not so desirable as well. Please review. I looked at the images, and right away, I think I mentioned this to you, Katie, the other night after Monday's meeting. And I said, immediately I wanted to change out some of the images that, she had included in this. One in particular was of Westminster, and it was a photograph of, I believe, the insurance company that's there on Main Street, and nothing else. Whereas if she had just turned and faced the other direction, she would have had the library and the Historical Society, a couple of other that I think truly shows, downtown Westminster and their district. And so I want to have everybody take a look at these photos, see what they think about them, and see if there's any suggestions that you have for them. This is, again, something that's up to us. She'll wait on all of this to get this feedback from us. But I think that we do want to show as close a resemblance, as we possibly can. And since visual is so important, I like everybody to be able to review that. And then she also sent me a link to the survey. The reason that I didn't send this all out to everybody is I attempted to take the survey and it didn't allow me to advance. I was only able to get to the first page. I put in all the information, email, etc., and it wasn't allowing me to do anything further. So you would have had the same problem, let's say, if you had tried. So I'm waiting to hear back from her. Hopefully that'll be something that she can fix right away, and we can get in and look at that survey and review it and make our edits, our suggestions, and go from there. Okay. And if you'll hang on just a moment, Cheryl is here. So here we go. More. She should be there. There we go. Hi, Cheryl.
Good evening. How are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. My apologies for my delay in arriving.
That's okay. How are you feeling?
Better, thank you.
Good.
Yep,
Okay,
better,
good.
much better. Thank you.
Of course. Maybe at the kind of towards the end of the meeting, we'll have a couple of minutes to talk with you a little bit, okay?
Certainly.
But maybe we'll just get through the agenda and then we'll do that, okay?
Sure, thank you.
Okay, terrific. Okay. All right. And so I did skip over the date and the ideas for the third annual meet and greet. And again, had discussed this with Katie, and I know that Peter and I have talked about it. And Christopher the other day at Monday's meeting thought perhaps that one of the things that we could include in this meet and greet is some information, et cetera, about the, what's currently, let's say, known as the agricultural accessory bylaw, and include whatever information you'd like to get out to the community about that at that particular meet and greet. But beyond that, I'd like to think of a theme and also talk about it, some dates for it. I know we want to kind of get in between two of the larger events in town, which are the town fair and then the field day, and just kind of, be somewhere in the middle. We can benefit from coming in after one of them and before another one of them. And so maybe we could think of a date this evening and somewhat of a theme, if you will. Our first meet and greet, for those who are unfamiliar, was where we invited the home-based, businesses in town. We met at Pinecrest Lodge. They were kind enough to offer us the space for the evening. And for a first meet and greet, I think it went well. We didn't have that many participants, but I think we had some good information that was shared, and everybody was looking forward to future ones. And then subsequent to that meet and greet, Katie and Peter and Ryan and myself went to a couple of our businesses up here at the Edward Jones. One of the things that they had mentioned there was for future meet and greets, rather than just have them business to business, maybe we could open them up to the community at large. And we might want to think about that as well. Our second meet and greet was held last year, and we did that as a Q&A online. And I asked every, we sent out, invited the community to ask questions of all of our department heads, and had a representative from every department head attend. And we actually got through every question. And I think that we ended up with like 37 or 38 questions. A lot of them were based on business. and businesses, home-based businesses, but a lot of, several of them were other things about snow removal and, and things like that. But I think it was, pretty successful. I thought that the turnout was pretty good for the questions, as well as for the people attended, everyone from fire chief to, planning board, and Alice and Kathy. And so I think it was well received. So I want to, continue with that momentum and think about something that's, that will be appealing and interesting and informative for our third annual meet and greet. Anybody have any ideas or thoughts?
Yeah,
Well, there
Winnie,
isn't-
go ahead, Christopher.
I was just going to throw quickly that there isn't going to be anything that's fully baked for however the agricultural proposal ends up for at least a month.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, okay. So let me say that typically we have these, well, last year's was actually in March, wasn't it? But our first one was in September, I believe. And that's kind of, I was thinking about autumn for this year again. Last year, because of COVID, which we just, we put it, we had it earlier and online.
Sounds good.
Okay, Peter, what were you going to say?
What month were you thinking? September,
September.
October, or
Yeah, I think
September?
September,
Okay.
autumn. And plus, there's a lot of things going on that Katie has during the summer months. We don't want to kind of, go up, when I say go up against them. Well, you've got the Dinghy Dash, you've got other things, and I just don't, I'd want to pick a time where there weren't other things going on, where people had a clear evening over the weekend, or Friday evening or something like that. And so that's what I'm just trying to figure out a date, working around some things.
Well, you have, field day is the 17th this year.
Okay.
So, and then the 5K road race, is the 10th, but that's very short in the morning.
Yeah.
So not like an all day thing.
Okay. And that's always on a Saturday, and so is field day as well. And well, what does everybody think about that? We've opted in the past, or we only had two others, but to do it during the week. And I think our first one was on a Friday night or Friday evening, rather than, I think it might be a little bit presumptuous to expect many people to give up a summer weekend, or a weekend with their families, or any part thereof. What does anybody think about that?
Yeah, I'd rather see it, some day during the week, except for Friday.
Okay.
That's my thought.
Okay.
I think you'd have better participation if you did it on a, midweek, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, somewhere around there.
I definitely think midweek. I mean, weekday is better. I think that may be a Thursday rather than a Tuesday or Wednesday. But
Yeah, I agree with that.
okay. Anybody else? I mean, I can certainly look at the calendar and see where we're other regular meetings, what dates they're held and that kind of thing. So not conflict with them. But so maybe we'll think about the maybe the first week, or beginning of second week of September, and let's maybe shoot for Thursday. I can look at the.
So it's either the 1st or the 8th.
Well, then.
When's Labor Day? Isn't that in September?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's on the 5th.
Yeah, that's the first weekend. Okay.
What about the 8th?
I'm okay with the 8th. What does anybody else think? Does it seem like it's too close to Labor Day and getting back into their schedules?
I can tell you, I have a meeting that day.
Well, see, there you go. That's why we're talking about this.
But then again, 3 Thursdays out of the month, I have a meeting. So that's set schedule.
Okay.
Well, how about the 1st? Do the 1st.
How about, nope. Well, it sounds like Thursdays are probably not a good day. is Wednesday a good day for, our meetings are on Wednesday. Maybe we'll, do it in place of our, not in place of, but we'll do it Wednesday.
Well, I mean, we're gonna have a quorum, right? Are we gonna have a
Sure.
quorum? So it's
Yep.
probably like a meeting, so,
It can
You
be
can tell-
that.
so what about the 7th?
Anybody?
I'm fine with that.
Christopher?
Probably fine with it. It's tough for me to know what my work travel schedule is going to
Yeah.
be at this point.
So I have one question. When do the kids go back to school?
Katie?
Is this year's school thing out already? Yeah, the calendar.
Because,
Hold on, let me,
like the week before, a lot of people go away the week before, right?
they
Am
do,
I
yeah.
right? Yes, so we gotta kind of think about that.
Yep.
calendar 2023 district school calendar. Hold on, I'll tell you. Wait for this to open. We had too many things going on. Parent copy. Here we go. All right. August, September 2022. Nope. School starts. First day of school is August 31st.
Oh, gosh.
Oh,
Wow.
so we're good,
Yeah, you're good.
like the 7th of September?
Sure. Yeah. We'll be
Everybody
good.
good with that? Meet and
Sounds-
greet?
Okay.
That's a Wednesday, correct? Yeah,
Yes.
that's the Wednesday one. Okay, yeah. Let's aim for that. And, clearly we can't, without taking several hours, think of, a theme unless anybody has anything offhand that they'd like to throw in. But, let's take a little bit of time over the next couple of weeks until our next meeting and try and come up with a theme.
Well, the first problem is location. Are we doing this at the town offices, or are we going to try to do it elsewhere like we did the first time?
I think we might want to try and do it elsewhere because it's a little bit difficult to anticipate how many participants we're going to have. And so I'm going to reach out to a couple of places that might donate their space for it. It could even, be outdoors if the weather was good. I mean, we have all of those options, I'm not sure that I want to. In fact, I'm pretty sure that I would prefer it not being a, kind of meeting, but rather a gathering and a meet and greet. So rather than have a format that kind of, resembles, if you will, these meetings, I think we should do something that's a little bit more casual and invites people to, well, I know you're looking at like, what's more casual than this, but you know what I mean? Something that's a little more relaxed, a little more fun. Okay, I put it out there, something a little more fun that people will want to attend and, get some real interest in what's going on. So I'm all for looking into some other spaces. As you know, Katie, and a couple of others, I have, a space that I'm working with right now. And there are other ones, and we can explore all of that.
Okay. Just
Okay?
remember, still, if we're gonna have a quorum, it's still gonna be put in as a meeting now.
Of course.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right. Just
for sure.
reminder. We don't
Yeah.
want to get ourselves in trouble with quorums.
No, hey, I think one of the only ones who put in an agenda for last Wednesday's meeting for the all board meeting.
Yeah.
I did put one in. Okay, great. All right. So if everyone could just, give it a little bit of thought about some ideas, that would be great. Okay. And so, any questions, any comments? Okay, none. All right. New business. So, and again, and we've spoken about this before, and I see that, Marix is here with us, or Rhonda is here with us, and welcome to you as well, Rhonda.
Hi, thank you.
Hi. And also I think that Katie brought this up the other day at the all board meeting about having, so many different committees, et cetera, attend some of the events going on in town. We've talked about this for a while. I think it's really, really important. I think that our presence and participation is necessary. Last year, some of you might not know, there was an email that went out between Denise and I, and then Laura Foley, actually. When Denise had signed off saying Economic Development Committee, Laura wrote back and said, I didn't know we had such a thing. So we need to correct that. We need to work on that. And we've been trying. Subsequent to that comment at one of Katie's events, Peter and Denise and I went out to the fair, and we visited with every single vendor that was there, from Hubbardston certainly, and even some that were not, and introduced ourselves and gave people information on how to get in touch with us, a little bit about what we were doing, and some of our goals and plans, and I'd like to continue doing that. And that's something, Rhonda, that we would absolutely appreciate Marek's help with. I'm going to volunteer for every one of these events, and I'd like to have some other participants, other people volunteer to participate as well. Katie has told us that we can have a table or a booth, whatever you want to call them, and maybe put something together, some information together about, like we did last year. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I just need a form, don't forget.
Yeah, okay, well, okay, we'll do that. We'll definitely do that. But I think it's, very important that we have a presence in all of these, and I would like Marek's to participate in that, Rhonda.
So can you tell me again, you're looking for him to like sit at the tables at the Hubbardston fair there?
At the town fair, at field day, at I don't know about the dinghy dam, but I mean, I think, those are the two largest events that we have. Yeah. And so at least at the town fair and the field day, both of those. And certainly we'll have somebody there with him as well. And maybe one of us will walk around, or there'll two of us walk around and, and kind of check back. I can purchase a tent so that, he's not sitting out in the sun or anything. But and have some information for him to hand out to folks who come by. But it's just real important that everybody knows that, we're there and we're accessible to them. That's something that's very important.
Okay, maybe you and I can talk at another time. I don't want to take up too much more time of the meeting, because I know you guys have a lot to say. So I'll hang on for a little bit longer, and then maybe you and I can call you or something and talk.
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely. Okay. So, I know that it's difficult for people to project, what's going to be going on at that point, but I'd like to at least find out if there's anyone else on our committee that would volunteer to do that with me again. Walk around, talk to people, introduce ourselves, answer questions, and things like that. Anybody?
Well, I'm in limbo until.
Yes, you
I'll
are.
I'll know better in June what I can do and what I can't do. So
I'll know by
I'll talk to you
7/24. Okay.
I'll let you know then.
Katie, I understand that you have your hands so full during these things. There's no way that I would even think.
No, but first of all, I will give you a list again of where any Hubbardston business is based.
Okay, good.
Little box and stuff like that. The annual town election, though, is technically after the fair. So technically, regardless, Peter, you'd still be an EDC member.
Roger that.
And you'd still be able to participate as an EDC. So just putting that out there. But yeah, I will definitely give you guys.
When is the fair?
The fair is June 11th.
Right.
It's a Saturday right in between. It's sandwiched right in between town meeting and
Town election. Wow. Okay.
Oh, I already have it written down. Look at that.
Yep.
It's already in my pick calendar.
Yeah.
Town
And you
meeting, town election. All right, I got it.
And you could see even just, that it's smacked, right there in the middle, how important it would be for us to get some information out during that time frame, right? I think it would be terrific.
Yeah, I'll be around for the town fair.
Okay, so Peter, will you do town fair with me and possibly me and Marix?
Yeah, but I'm not spending as much money as I did last year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, that's on you. It's hard
yeah, I
not to.
know. Well, how can you not? That jelly was good.
Okay. I hear you. Okay, good. Thank you for that. And we'll, field day in September, I will reach out to everybody again before that. And as the date approaches, you'll know your schedules better, and hopefully someone will also volunteer to do that with us. Okay. All right. And so the next is our welcome for new residents and businesses. I think we touched on that very briefly at our last meeting. I think it would be nice to put something together, and certainly about businesses in town. A referral list, etc., vendor list, or whatever you want to call it. A bit about what we're doing. I put a call out to Allison Smith at the Agricultural Commission and invited them to include, they have a farm social each year, and they'd like to do a brochure as well. And I told them that we would absolutely include those things in this welcome kit. And that's what I'd like to have that kit comprised of. The different things that are going on, including the businesses, and they can put, country roads. Sherry can include information about that, and things like that. And so I think what I might do, because I know that Peter mentioned it at the meeting last week, and there wasn't a response. Maybe people didn't realize that they could at that point, but I would like to put out an email inviting the other committees and like that to include any information that they want to have included. And so if anybody has ideas about that or can recommend, hey, I know that such and such committee is working on whatever they might want to be included in it, let me know about that. Or as you're talking with other committees, mention it to them, and let's put something together and have it as chock full information as we can. Can anybody think of any other committees that would be suitable to include, that, that I can reach out to specifically about that?
Why can't we make up a list of all the committees and with all the committee members and put that in the package, if that's, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we could do that for sure.
I think because a lot
That's
of
a good
people,
idea.
as we know, there aren't that many people involved with the town anyway. It's just a small group. So if you put, maybe if they had it on a piece of paper or something in front of them,
Okay. Let me write that down.
with contact information, at least for the chairperson of each committee,
Yeah.
with an email and with all the members listed, it might be good for the town, new residents and businesses.
Sure. Okay. So I think that's a good idea, actually, because that's really, even in the small business guide, the list of the committees are not included in that.
Right.
So this would be a good opportunity to let everyone know what, some of the committees, at least some of them. So thank you. That's a good idea.
Make sure underneath you always put, and we're always looking for volunteers.
Yeah.
Just that.
Maybe in this welcome guide for new residents, we can also include, when the town meetings are and when, where to vote. And, if somebody's coming from a big city, they probably have, 35 precincts to vote in, whereas we only have one place to vote in town.
Okay.
So,
These are
that could be included in there.
It's a good idea.
That's just a thought. I don't know. Maybe I'm going overboard. So.
No, I like that. I think those are all really important. I do. Those are the things that, people are looking that information for. I know that when we first moved here and we didn't know anybody, and all of a sudden I'd hear from people, oh, did you go to the Dinghy Dash? No, I didn't. What's a Dinghy Dash?
Right.
Where could I find out about that? You know, there's no newspaper, there's no Chamber of Commerce, and the overriding answer was the town clerk. And I have to tell you, I would never think to call the town clerk and say, you know, what party is happening on, you know, or where can we go for whatever. So I think that this is good information for people to know about, because I don't think that they would perhaps think to make those calls, or even to look on the town website for some of these things. So I appreciate your input on that. That's great. And I've written all of that down. And that does bring me to, other than if anyone has any other comments or suggestions about that, that kind of covers the agenda itself. And it just, there's one or two other things that were not included on the agenda that maybe we should touch base on real fast. Does anybody have any comments about what we've discussed so far?
If you could send me, just so I could
Yes.
see the welcome for the residents and the businesses. Like, you describing it is great, but I'm like a visual person.
Yes.
And you don't have to just send it to me via email and I'll critique the hell out of it. But
As I knew you would.
yes, you say it generally. It's like, it's hard for me to come up with ideas. So send it to me and I will critique the hell out of it and give you my 2 cents. Whether you put it in or not is besides the fact, but it might be
Okay.
like, oh, that's great, you know?
Yeah.
But
And
So
these are definitely, and so even things like your Hubbardston 250 Facebook page. That's
Yeah.
something that should be included. Information about that, those types of platforms that they can look into to get information. So all of that, and let me write that down as well. Celebration 250.
no, just Hubbardston Celebration. That's what it's my handle.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, and I'm on pretty much everything with that same handle.
Okay, fine.
The only handle that's different is Twitter, because they wouldn't let me put the whole thing. It was Hubbardston Cell 1. But everything else, Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, it's all Hubbardston Celebration is the handle.
Okay.
And Lord knows what else I'll get into and do something else stupid, you know?
Trouble is looming.
Yeah.
I could tell. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Nope. Okay. So one or two things that were not included in the agenda, but I think should be maybe addressed, and we had lightly tapped into these a couple of months ago as well, is we've discussed our concerns about the voting and the turnout for voting, and had spoken about, maybe some ways to encourage greater participation in that. I know that we had talked about the senior citizens for sure, even with surveys. I have spoken to Claudia at the senior center, and I told her if they would supply the computers, we would supply the manpower and for surveys and that kind of thing. So I want to maybe have an initiative of getting more people involved in these surveys, so we have, a better kind of, general feeling about these,
We
the
could
results, if you will. What?
We'd also do a mailing with the QR code. Doing an all residents mailing is like $360. I don't know if we have that in our, I don't actually know what our budget is. But I know we actually just had to look that up because one of the cell tower guys has to do a all resident mailing, and it's only
Okay.
like $300 to do it. So we could actually do an information card and put a website and a QR code for people to find the survey that way.
Okay.
And if we send that out, we could a few days later do a code red where everybody who has a registered phone number gets called and reminded that they should take it. That's
Oh,
those are really the two strongest tools that we have for it.
wow.
Yeah, the only other thing I would say is put a link with a reverse email, and then you probably will hit everybody besides putting it on social medias.
Yeah, social media too, but that's just kind of a given at this point, that it
Yeah.
would go on the town site and Katie could share it to like the Hubbardston Forum or whatever it was, and that would be enough to get quite a bit of attention. And everybody would complain about how they didn't hear about other things, but
Right.
that
Oh,
those are
shucks.
really the most effective things.
Right.
Do the mailing followed by the reverse 911, followed by social media. Like that's the broadest coverage you can get for anything in town.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Now, what do you think about doing something like that to encourage people to get out and vote? Not only for the survey, I mean, I understand that was based on,
That
you know,
That
sorry.
already happens.
Yeah, the reverse. Well, we only started doing reverse 911 within the last year, but just from a anecdotal episode. So when I was running for my planning board seat, I actually sent a postcard to everybody who's voted in Hubbardston in an election or gone to a town meeting in the last 3 years. And then specifically target them on Facebook for messaging. So there's ways to reach those people, but even with that, there was still only a couple hundred people at the election. It was a slight blip over what normally comes. And this first election, I think, is actually going to be the first one that we have come up where we do the reverse 911 call for just the town election. We did for the fall stuff last year, but I don't think we did for just the regular town election.
No, we sent the email out to anyone that has signed up. And then we sent out a mailer postcard like we always do. And it's like bright pink or orange or yellow, it's like some ridiculous godly color. But there's still people that say they don't get it. I hear that a lot. And I'm like, well, you can't make it up. I don't know what else to say.
There were people who were complaining online where I honestly took and I matched it up against the mailing matrix, and I definitely sent them a postcard, and they were still venting on the internet that they didn't get anything to let them know that there was an election coming up, despite the fact that I spent perfectly good money myself letting them know. So it's sometimes difficult to reach people, but the reverse 911 combined with the other stuff that we're doing now, I think is going to make a big difference in the long run.
Okay.
Because other than that, I don't know what else you can do to motivate people to show up at an election other than call them, email them, send them a letter. Like the only thing that's left is doing those things multiple times, which we kind of already do, and then literally knocking on their door. Like there isn't much further we can go with it.
It's also with elections, and you can ask Lori this, first of all, like this one coming up, it's not a presidential election. There's no big hot ticket, question 2 or anything like that. So if you don't have those things, the numbers drop down dramatically. But then also, we don't have any contested spots on the ballot. So half the people look at it and there's nobody running against anybody. So why should we even bother? And I hate to say that, but that's the gist of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for the fact that I believe we're expecting to do a reverse 911, I would expect the turnout to be super low on this because nothing's contested.
Yep.
But as far as I'm aware, the plan is to do that. So.
Well, yeah, it should be because it's free. So.
I don't know if that answered the question. I might be a little jaded about it, but.
What? Get your postcard, Chris?
Well, I mean, clearly, what I'm taking away from this conversation is that everybody recognizes that the turnout for voting is not, high. Although I did look at some of the other towns, surrounding towns, and they seem to have a similar turnout in their numbers. But it just makes me curious if maybe we couldn't be creative and thinking of some other ways to get people.
There is one thing,
Yes.
and I don't know if we are already doing it, but organized transportation from the senior center on day of voting. Like, I imagine someone's probably already doing that, but last time when I stood out in front of the polls the entire day, I didn't see it happen.
Oh,
So,
okay.
that is something that if we're not doing, we could do, it would make a pretty big difference in turnout.
I'm writing it down.
But if we're looking for people to be particularly supportive of progressive economic development issues, we're going to want to spend a significant amount of time investing in educating those people about why it's better for them to have economic development in the town.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Good information. Anybody have any thoughts? Additional thoughts? Okay. Okay. So, Christopher, thank you, but you make me want to ask another question. I'll do that in a minute. Yeah, I know. Okay, so another thing that I think we need to focus on is getting a couple of new additional members to the committee. We have 2 vacancies. Well, okay. We'll say that we have 2 vacancies and they need to be filled. So I just ask that anybody has any suggestions or wants to have a potential member contact me for some more information, please give them both my cell number, the email address to the EDC. But we need to fill those positions. It's important that we do that. Why I'm looking at Katie's face right now.
All I can think of is bring a buddy to school, you know, or something.
It's just unbelievable.
Like,
It's just-
oh. Like,
I have a thought about the prior thing we were working on with the voting and stuff.
Yeah.
Why can't we, we've done nothing with these town signs, the 2 that we put up. Why can't we put on a whiteboard underneath it instead? We don't have even have any advertisement up yet. Put a whiteboard under, vote on whatever day, and a town meeting on such and such day, or
Okay.
you know what I mean?
Yep.
Well, Katie, on behalf of Special Events, just requested a very significant sum of money from the opera committee
Yep.
that I
Katie,
believe was
shame
approved by
on
the
ya.
select board.
don't
That
get me started about that.
that is going to be for a large dot matrix sign
Yeah.
to go on Route 68
There you go.
for electronic
Okay.
messaging, to professionalize what we're doing instead of just having it be on the mobile sign that kind of rolls in and out.
Yeah, that will be hopefully I'm hoping to have it swapped so that way everything is done when the money is allotted, because you can't pay the vendors until the project is done. So basically they finish up and then the town can write a check for it, to pay it. So I'm hoping to have it done very soon.
Where is it going?
It's going where the lovely sign is that I hate so badly, right on the corner of High Street by the fire station on Clark's Corner. It's
Yep.
going to go on the side of the walkway.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it'll be right there in the center of town, has a very good line of sight. It will dim at nighttime, and then later on, like as dusk hits, and then later on we can either have it flip to a black background with a stagnant time and temp, or go completely off if it's a bother to anyone. So if that's too bright. So it will be put different kind of pictures and with words and things on it. Nothing, we're not going to do anything flashing or anything like that, but the people that will have access to it is the town administrator, Lori, the town clerk, Sandra Berry, because she's in charge of parks and usually is technically in charge of that sign, and then myself. We'll all have remote access to it, and we'll be able to put everything from town meetings to if there's another COVID clinic, or if there's a the light fight's coming, if the Boy Scouts are having something, if there's a the haunted hayride, whatever it is, town meetings, the whole 9 yards. If
Awesome.
there's a survey to do, we can put it all up there. So yep.
Excellent.
It'll be good. We're gonna come into the 21st century,
Yeah. When do we think that might actually?
right around July.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
It's already been.
Wow.
We've already come up with the renderings of what it's going to look like, and they've already ordered it. So it's in progress of being made.
Good deal.
And you
Yep.
can change it remotely?
Yeah, it's all remote. None of it. It's all
Excellent.
self-contained. It's got the lifetime data services included, and really
Nice.
warranties, and it's, you know, everything's included. So in other words, it's very less worrisome for maintenance purposes for the town.
Oh,
Those
yeah.
things breaks,
Okay.
we call them and they come out and fix it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
so this, I remember you discussing this at one of the, I think the select board meetings perhaps, a couple of weeks ago,
Yeah.
about, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, do we have, and so we have, control of, in other words, if we want to change something or update it, we don't have to call into this company and give them the information. We do it all on our own.
Yep,
So
we're
it's
gonna have,
like real time, right then and
Yep.
there.
yeah,
okay.
real log. We can tweak it and get it to, and it can rotate out with, you know, whatever we want it to say and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Not like a one-shot thing.
That's
It-
also really great for emergencies.
Yep,
Yeah, yeah, that's terrific.
yep. If the school's closed due to whatever, or the offices are closed due to lack of water or anything like that.
Or tree
It-
falling down on
Yep.
Brigham Road or, okay, that's wonderful.
Yep, it can be changed very quickly.
Wow, welcome to the 21st
Now-
century.
Is time and temperature going to show up all the time or just at night?
No, at nighttime, there, a lot of the municipalities have it flipped to a stagnant time and temp, just so it's not bright. It's not
Yeah.
shining in.
Yeah, I
windows,
like that. I like that idea.
It stays stagnant. So you still know it's there and it catches your attention, so you know to look at it, but
Yeah,
it's bother anybody.
right. Excellent.
Wow, good job, terrific, thank you. Love that,
Hence-
July. Okay.
File it on that one.
Okay, so I'm just gonna ask, and I'm gonna ask, if this is allowable. Christopher or Katie, because this past meeting was, I hadn't been to the meeting before, or maybe even two before. Can we get an update can our committee get an update on what's happening with the ad hoc committee for the ag accessory use bylaw, or what I'm calling it? Can we have a conversation about that at this meeting?
Sure.
Okay.
I can give a rundown on that.
And by the way, let me just tell you that I had sent to Cheryl an email about 2 months ago, maybe, chock full of documents and all kinds of things about what the committee is working on and doing. And so that's really the best that she has to go on, is what I've been able to send her. So if you can perhaps fill her in on maybe a little bit more detail than you would if it were just talking to Peter and I.
Yeah. So I guess given the spiel for
Look
the
at her,
public,
she's saying thank you with her arms in prayer.
for the public and those who are subsequently watching on the internet or YouTube. Forgive me because I can't quote the dates, but a few months ago, the select board, the planning board, and the EDC, well, really it was a joint meeting between the EDC and the planning board, where we talked about possibly doing an agricultural accessory bylaw for the town of Hubbardston. At that joint meeting, we decided, well, we really needed a committee to go out and work with stakeholders and work with experts to put something together, because it wasn't going to be as easy as just copying something from Rutland and knowing that it would work in Hubbardston without making some significant changes to it. So we asked the select board created and appointed that committee, and they did it with a rep from the EDC, Whitney, a rep from the select board, Whitney, Katie, a rep from planning, myself, a rep from the Agricultural Commission, and then 3 members of the public. It was originally going to be 2 members of the public, but there was a 3rd member of the public, and we don't say no to volunteers, so it ended up going that way. And we originally met and we started talking, well, and I guess to pause for a moment here, An agricultural accessory use is a use of the property that is related to farming, but isn't necessarily farming itself. So for example, let's talk about a corn maze. So growing corn is farming. Setting up a corn maze and charging people admission to go stumble their way through it, that's an accessory use, or it's an example of an accessory use. Growing apples is farming. Charging people to come and pick them themselves, which is just brilliant. That's an accessory use, because really what you're doing is you're selling an experience and not a food crop. So when it's said to be accessory, there's actually a provision, dependent upon where you look. If you look in Bolton, it's an accessory use if it's less than 50% of the revenue of the main use. In Rutland, it's defined differently. In state law, it's defined as 25% the revenue of the main use. So that's the background on what it is. So then, do you have any questions about that so far? Okay. So then we had a meeting, and at the meeting we had an organizational meeting, and then we talked about goals on what we were all kind of hoping to get out of this. And those things ranged from this being important to the economic development of Hubbardston, that this is a way to have more business in, that this is a way to support farmers. The interesting thing that came out of it was that the farmer stakeholders across the board all said essentially the way our rules are, it's really confusing. It's not really clear what they can do and what Hubbardston considers to be farming and not farming from a zoning perspective. And I hadn't necessarily thought of it that way, but yeah, no, they're completely right. Our zoning, it needs work, particularly in that regard. So we gathered all those goals, gathered all that feedback. And then from there, we started talking about, well, what kinds of uses would we like to see in town? And we have a list of uses we're currently working on. Oh, back up a step. Before we got to the uses, we talked about zoning devices, because there's really a few different zoning tools. And the first zoning tool is to do an agricultural accessory bylaw. And an agricultural accessory bylaw is essentially what I just talked about for Rutland, where it just says if this is less than 50% of whatever you're doing, you're just fine. The next one is to recommend a significant redoing of our zoning and residential agricultural, which we thought wouldn't be super easy to pass and would also require doing a ton of changes. And then the third one is to do what I'm terming a rural opportunity zone overlay. And what that means is we essentially add another layer to our zoning map that says if your property meets these requirements, then you have these uses available to you. And those requirements, we debated them at the last meeting. They're not resolved yet, but being a farm as defined by Chapter 128, there's likely going to be a size requirement that's related to certain types of uses, where you can only do certain types of uses if your property is big enough. Those kinds of things. So as of the current moment, it's still up in the air. There's still some big questions to answer from the committee. The first one of the big questions is how are we going to stratify what uses get what kind of review? And then the next one is what is that review process going to look like? So that's where we're currently trying to work to figure things out. I personally have an action item to start on an actual draft of this to report back at the next meeting, which is going to take up my nights and weekends for the next couple of weeks. And then from there, we're hoping to move on to having a public input session where we get as much publicity as we can and invite people to come hear us give a presentation on what we're trying to do, how we're trying to do it, what it's going to be, and what we expect the impact to be. And then just sit back and listen to the public and hear what they have to say about it. And then from there, we'll hopefully make some minor tweaks, some minor revisions, and then it'll be given back to the EDC and the planning board. Then once it hits the planning board, it goes through the zoning bylaw approval process where it gets held for a formal public hearing. And then hopefully it goes on the town warrant in the fall, which is currently looking like zoning palooza. Because there's a chance that a couple of the things we're going to try to get on this warrant might end up carrying over into the fall warrant. But we'll have to see how that goes. That's still an open issue.
That was a lot. Thank you. That was great.
The other thing is if you are interested in documents, we do have a Google Share Drive that has all of the documents related to that process. If for some reason you want to go through and read them, let me know and I'll send you a link to it.
Cheryl, did you have anything you wanted to say or ask Christopher?
I was just trying to type into the chat to Christopher directly to
Oh.
put me on that shared Google Drive. So I'm gonna finish up that message and give my email address. Is that what you'd be looking for, Christopher?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can also just email me directly. I'm just kmonroe@hubbardston.us. That's what it is, isn't it, Kitty?
Yeah, it should be K Monroe, yeah.
At
The K
Hubbardston.
Monroe part. It's hubbardston.us. That's really the part I'm wondering about. It's not the K Monroe
Oh,
part.
yeah.
That I'm pretty sure about.
Oh, well, maybe you're not, because sometimes there's like little numbers depending on what login you have for the town. Sometimes
Fair
there's-
enough.
Okay, good. Thank you,
Yeah,
Christopher. That was.
It's
that-
hubbardstonma.us for the
MA.
official town email addresses. Yeah, kmonroe@hubbardstonma.us.
Got it. Thank you.
Terrific. Christopher, thank you. That was
No
a
problem.
lot of information in a short amount of time. Really, you just really condensed it, and thank you. That was great. One thing that I wanted to ask everyone's opinion on was the timing for our commercial district overlay bylaw. As I'm sure everyone has noticed, the storage units are going up by the pallet shop or adjacent to the pallet shop. And I don't know the time frame for the completion of this project, but I'm wondering if anyone is concerned. I'm a little bit, well, I bring it up because I'm a little bit concerned about the timing that you know, of us introducing this to the town if the completion of these storage units going up is going to interfere with, or let's say kind of, you know, sway people in one thought about it. Because, you know, historically they're not very pretty. And I'm just concerned about the timing. Has anybody thought about that or have any thoughts about it?
There's
This
a-
particular storage complex has landscaping requirements and such
Yeah.
because it is on the on a
Thank you,
main
Jesus.
way, and it was written into their special permit.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that shows pictures and also has a timeline of it, but I can't remember the time off it, but it shows a picture coming soon and it shows with the landscape and everything.
Okay, would we, and that's great to know, would we be able to use those photographs for any of the work that we're doing for any of our projects? Would they be accessible to us?
What do you mean, the sign?
Well, you know, coming soon, or what it's, you know, the what it's supposed to look like with its landscape and all of that, the renderings.
It's right out in front of the property, the sign.
Yeah. So if you want to take a picture, you
Okay,
stand on the road, take a picture.
okay. All right. Well, I think that might be useful. I mean, so people aren't fearful of, what this might look like. I mean, we're asking people to, approve or vote on the, commercial buildings. And one of the first ones going on, and I understand that this was before, the bylaws were created, et cetera. But to, the average person, it might seem like, well, if this is what I'm signing up for, I'm not signing up for it.
It's tough because people don't realize that that essentially if you don't have a good reason to deny a special permit, that your hands are
Right.
tied as a planning board because we
Sure.
get sued.
Yeah.
And personally, I don't think that ever should have gone downtown.
agree.
That would have been much better for something that was a more community forward usage. As
Yeah.
opposed to a place where people just put their stuff and leave it. But unfortunately, that's the zoning that we live with in this town because of what the last few generations of the planning board did. We have to work with what we have, and yeah, it definitely impacts the town center project. But in terms of how it impacts it, it's proof that we should have done it 10 years ago.
Right.
That's what it is, that we should have been thoughtful and proactive and not pushed business away, and instead of coming up with our crazy zoning as it currently is. And I know it wasn't necessarily that anybody set out to make it that way intentionally, but there were a bunch of little
course.
decisions that all kind of piled up. And when you take it in the totality, our zoning makes no sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't plan for a future of the town that is good for business.
Okay.
Nope.
Do you think that we need to delay this particular bylaw until that is completed? Do you think that that would be helpful?
No, I don't think so, because
Okay.
there's a good chance this fall meeting is, like I said, it's going to be zoning palooza.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be the implementation section of the master plan. There's likely going to be the revised marijuana bylaw. There's going to be the agricultural accessory. We're having some issues with approval on the accessory dwelling units because town council would like us to make some changes to the
I'm
language.
sorry, the accessory what usage?
Accessory dwelling unit.
Dwelling, okay,
Um,
oh, ADU, okay.
Yeah, and the battery energy storage. Town council would like some changes on that. So there's currently a debate going on between the planning board and town council. So that might get pushed to the fall warrant, which neither myself nor the current chair are super happy about. So we're potentially talking about there being 6 to 10 things that are fairly material zoning wise falling into that fall meeting. So at that point, we've crossed the threshold from where if you add one, you're just making it more of a party. Because when we were talking about there being 3 or 4, and we're like, well, if we add one more, that might be a lot for people. But now when you're talking about as many as might fall into it, you're talking about something that is just a themed evening.
Hmm.
Oh, we're gonna find out where the town stands, and the biggest thing is if we can get the information to the not only the residents, but also businesses and stuff like that, on what this could potentially do and fix things and make life easier for businesses coming in, farms, whatever,
Sure.
whatever the zoning is. But we have to get the information out there. If we can do that in an effective way, we can get the point across that these all make sense and are good
Right.
for our town. If we don't, then it's going to be a rough meeting.
Yeah,
That's one thing I really like about the process that we did with the agricultural
Ad hoc.
advisory committee. Yeah. Because we got stakeholders on it. It's
Yeah.
not just about getting feedback from the stakeholders in the process. Like that is an absolutely huge part of it. But we also now have 3 of the most passionate advocates possible for when it comes up, that are going to go around and talk to all of their friends who also own agricultural properties, and are going to go talk to all of their friends and put together a group of people to show up and vote for that, because they're they're contributing, they have ownership. It means something to them personally because they worked on it, and it means something to them financially because they all own farms. So by doing it that way, we're creating advocates, and we haven't necessarily gone that direction with some of the other stuff, and hopefully we'll move a little further that direction with the town center as we get further into the process, where we need to where we have the information, the public information night. We need to be very sure we get the business owners to show up so that they get involved and it turns into something they like and
Yeah.
they want. Because that's how you build the advocates. All that stuff happens before the meeting, and that's ultimately where the decision is going to be made. Because somebody could get on the other side, and with it being a special town meeting in the fall, it's not going to be a ton of people, so it wouldn't be too difficult. And zoning stuff has to carry by a 2/3 majority.
Right.
So it wouldn't be too much work for somebody who really wanted to be obstinate to just drum up 40 of their friends and try to throw the meeting off. So that's why we got to do our work.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I think that Katie had said, well, I remember that Katie has said that Ryan had thought that the best plan was for both of these to go through simultaneously. The what I keep calling the accessory use bylaw and the commercial overlay district. So I'd like to, that's the intention. Do you see any problem with them just because of the overload? I think I mentioned at one of our meetings, did we think that that by having these two go in together at the same time, would it interfere with one or both of them passing?
Yeah, because of the other stuff going on there,
Yes. Yeah.
it's not even a question anymore, because we're no longer talking about 2 things, we're talking about 6 things.
Yeah.
So the difference between having one more thing on or one more thing off, it's not a material difference at this point.
Okay.
No one is going to be like, oh, we have 7 zoning items on this meeting instead of 6. Well, that's the straw that broke the camel's back for me.
So
It
my
will
whole,
have happened by 3.
my whole thing is, if it's gonna go on the fall meeting, it needs to be done correctly. We've lost a few months here. So if it's ready, it's ready. If it's not, it's not. That's, I hope it would be, but again, we've lost a couple months. The last 2 months we didn't have meetings. So if it's gonna go, we need to do it correctly, because we can't have this not done well.
Right.
Yeah, so I think so to have that meeting with the people of the town, because they really need to know what's going on to know what they're going to be voting for. So that's huge. This is huge for the town, and we need to bring this, like you said, bring the town up into the 21st century and zoning bylaws, and that's what it's all about. I mean, we're not business friendly in this town, and we're not. It was just not business friendly. It's so hard for somebody to come in and start a business, and we don't want that. We don't want to say, oh no, we're not going to Hubbardston. It's so hard to get a business permit or whatever. So we want it to be inviting, and I think the more the public knows, the better off they are.
Well, like a super, something just happened with this recently. Kelly Romano, I believe last name is, the lady that owns Bloom and Blossom, I believe she named her business. She's a new business in town, and she lives out on one of the back roads. But she grows flowers. In fact, she did all the flowers at the town common for the ceremony. They look very lovely, and she sets up at Westminster Market and stuff like that. And she sells stuff online. She messaged me because I was talking with her at Westminster Market and chatting with her about her business and everything else. And she had messaged me after the fact. I brought out a possible shop in the future. Granted, she's like, this is a ways down the road, but is what's available, where could I go, and everything. And I gave her the very few options that we have in town for her to actually go to have a space.
Yeah.
And it's really kind of sad when you think about it. I gave her like 2 options was basically it. Either that, or I gave her the option of selling her stuff at Rieta Ranch or partnering with one of the other farms or businesses that are already here, you know, to kind of piggyback on their business, and maybe they'll, you know, sell it. And granted, she'd have to pay them to do that. So then she's losing money, you know, so these are the real problems that we have in this town for even the home-based business, you know, trying to get
Yeah.
their stuff out. There's no place for businesses to go. There's just not. There's just not.
Yeah,
It's a big
for-
issue. It's a very big issue. Absolutely. You know, yeah, it's it's difficult to, we don't have any space for anybody. But I've gone through you know, the channels for introducing things that can accommodate, like the storage containers and that kind of thing. And Katie, you and Ryan went through this with me, to, you know, to provide even pop-up spaces for businesses to you know, rent out at maybe a 6-month terms and that kind of thing. It's very difficult when you don't have a physical space for
Yeah.
businesses to come to. It's almost impossible.
For her, what we're doing with the agricultural, I know it's tough because what we're doing with the rural opportunity overlay, it's going to be immediate relief for her. Like it'll be clear, like right away, like she can sell at her farm. She can have a shop
Yeah.
because she's directly selling the product that she grows.
Yeah.
Arguably, she might be able to do that already under the law, but I'm not going to give her that specific legal advice. Um,
Well, I think the
Spoken
thing
like a
is,
true lawyer.
I think
Well,
the
the-
thought for her was because of the road that she lives on, it is so out there.
Off the
Yeah.
beaten path, yeah.
Yeah, that to have a shop, it's not like, you know, Plainview right on 68 or even Ladybug Farm that's on Williamsville. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
this one was way out there. So I think, and it's also her private, you know, it's her yard, you know,
Yeah.
so
Right.
might not want people trampsing, you know. So I don't know. Again, she, you know, might go that route eventually as well with this opportunity. But, you know, it just shows that, say it was somebody else, like a baker, you know, like Sunflower Pastries or something like that. There's, again, not really a place for them to go
Right,
because there's just not.
right.
Yeah.
The other issue with pop-up vendors is we don't yet have a reliable data connection anywhere in this town over the air. And there is a special permit that's coming up for a tower. And then there's the town one that is on indefinite hold, but is due any moment now. Well, once that goes up, there's also no guarantee that a commercial carrier puts their device on it. Because from listening to the testimony of the person who came in from the tower company to talk about the special permit last Thursday, they don't like putting their equipment on municipal towers at all, particularly monopoles. They said that there's a lot of problems with that. And who knows, it could be him just posturing because he's putting in a special permit. But it seemed like he was being truthful to me. But that's going to be a game changer for those pop-up businesses because right now that's not an option in Hubbardston. Why would somebody come to sell stuff if they can only transact in cash? Nobody carries cash anymore. Like that's a very difficult way to do business if you can't just use Square.
I carry cash.
What'd you say? What, Katie?
I carry cash. 'Cause I'm a good person and I know better. Okay.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
I totally agree. But the other thing too is if it's the option of like, say, because one is this brand name and this is, you know, like the only other option is to put it on the tower that the town has for the other brand name. You know what I mean? Like they might just be like, well, it's our only option. So that's what we got to do. You know,
right.
maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed that we can get a couple up here, you know?
Yeah.
Something.
Okay.
Yeah, there is, and it's worth noting because it's probably going to be a little bit of news. June 5th, 6th, and 7th, I believe, is the balloon test for the one that is proposed off of Main Street, where they're going to float a balloon up to the height of the tower. for the morning so that people can see if they can actually see the tower. Looking at the map, it looks like nobody should be able to see the tower unless they're standing on the property or they're looking down from like Mount Jeffs.
Yep,
Other than that, it looks like it.
Oh,
Yeah, and other than that, it looks like it's gonna be pretty hard to see. And you can already look off of from Mount Jeffs and see windmills, and they're not doing the horizon
Right.
any favor. So I don't know that a tower that's gonna stick very slightly of 50 feet or so above the trees is going to be something that really detracts from the view from those areas. But we'll see.
Oh,
I think people are more interested in having an internet connection to their phone. You know what their cell service and stuff like that, not internet, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I think that's going to outweigh at this point, because that's like one of the biggest, like for an individual, the biggest complaints you see on like Hubbardston people and stuff is the trash pickup and the internet and cell phone debacles. You know?
Right. Right.
Wired data connections are going to be the compact disc of the 2020s. And if you look at countries where they're just installing internet for the first time, they're completely skipping wired connections. They're not doing fiber optic and not doing cable. They're just doing 4 and 5G everywhere whenever somebody's having the ability to do it fresh.
Right.
So those towers are going to mean a lot in the long
Yeah.
run.
Yeah.
Yep.
Excellent. Okay. Good information. Thank you, everyone. Okay, well,
I
I
sneak
think
in one
that,
more thing.
yeah, no,
Um,
absolutely, of course.
I
Thank you.
started a Google Share Drive for the committee. It would be good if we could get everybody onto it and get all of the documents related to the town center overlay into it in order to stay organized. I tried to go through my email and pick out whatever I could and put it in the folder.
Right.
And I found some of the reference materials, and then I found the letter where the contract was signed for the grant, but I wasn't able to find much else. But it seems like there's been a bunch more material. We should try to get into that folder to consolidate it to make it easier for everyone to look at.
I'll work on that from my end.
Yep. Yeah, that's where that stuff can go for like your welcome to the residents and welcome to business, the PDF, the bifold, trifolds, whatever, all
Yeah.
that stuff. Dump it in there, then we can all see it whenever we are good and ready, and it won't get bogged down in emails.
Right. Okay, good. Well, one thing that I wanted to mention, and I think that just wanted to, get everyone's input on it, is that, I don't want the work that we're doing for people to perceive it as restrictive, et cetera, because I think that our goals and how we're moving forward with this actually would give so many more opportunities to businesses and that kind of, sometimes when there's no rules and regulations, or there's no, written about, one thing or the other, people really don't have a basis to start from. And I think that by creating some of these bylaws, we're giving people somewhat of a direction or tutorial to, to navigate and do these different businesses. So I was just wondering if anybody, had thoughts on that. I think that I don't want these efforts to be perceived as restrictive and preventative, but rather as a good pathway to, coming to town, having a business and succeeding in that business. And if there's anyone that has any thoughts about how we might be able to have people look at it in that perspective rather than preventative, I would be curious about your thoughts.
I think through a lot of the stuff that we're doing, like what we just talked about with the agricultural accessory committee,
Right.
that doing it that way, just getting the stakeholders involved and making sure the people who are going to be the loudest voices when it goes up in front of the town are people you've already heard from and either got them on board or know what they're going to say, so you can work around it.
Okay.
Yeah, because if you can't answer the questions when they get thrown at you at town meeting, then you're just screwed, you know? You need to see where the problems are going to lie in advance, so that way we can either fix it or, you know, tweak it or whatever so that way we're not either being too restrictive or too,
Yeah.
Jesus, what are you doing? You know?
And-
Yeah,
And we also just need to see what Jennifer's recommendation is going to be for the overlay. Because there's different ways you can carve it up and different ways you can suggest it, where I think it potentially draws a ton of pushback or potentially not that much, depending upon how you look at and incorporate or don't incorporate High Street. So there's some
High Street,
yes.
okay. Why High Street? As a resident of High Street, I'm curious.
Just based upon the select board's recent hearing over the discussions of paving High Street.
Oh, okay, okay.
There appeared to be a pretty big split on that, where a good portion of the residents, they don't want the street paved. And if it does get paved, they want it to have a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit with speed bumps. And that's not necessarily something you would do with your town center. So there's lots of stuff to think about in relation to what areas get included into a possible town center overlay.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that as well. Okay, so thank you, everyone. I think we have completed the agenda. I'd like to take a few minutes to welcome Cheryl to our committee and give Cheryl an opportunity to talk a few minutes about herself and why she wants to be involved with us. And so you have the floor.
Thank you. My name is Cheryl Ryan Chan, and my husband and I moved to Hubbardston in August of last year. We have 2 grown children, so it's just the 2 of us. And, you know, I know that a lot of times when people move into new communities, they get to know the communities primarily through their children and the school system and all the activities around their children. So my husband and I the idea of moving to Hubbardston came very quickly because we found our dream home. It wasn't something that we were looking specifically in Hubbardston, but it was absolutely perfect for us. We lived in Auburn for about 20 years. So we were looking, kind of putting our feelers out there for land to buy for our future retirement home with the intention of building. We hadn't really focused on any particular area. And like I said, our dream home came up as a listing and it was in Hubbardston. So we bought it. So here we are. And we are absolutely delighted to be here. So my husband is an engineer. He actually works for a global chip firm that's based in California, but has offices in Andover. So that's his commute. And I work from home. It's kind of hard to describe what I do in a short, so I'll come up with a short version. I am a community manager, community builder, community organizer, and professional facilitator. My niche is focused almost entirely on the disability community. And so I work with people with intellectual disabilities and their families in finding and facilitating plans for a joyful, dignified life into their future, helping families plan for beyond themselves as caregivers, what will happen to their loved ones. I have a number of initiatives that I have been doing over the past many years that focus on tools for community expansion and building. Those are really my heart projects while I've done my other work. I've most recently started to shut down the individual planning and facilitation that I did for many years all over the country because it's exhausting and I'm ready to just kind of do more in a larger scale. So I do a lot of public speaking. I do a lot of workshops and trainings. And I'm fairly well known in the disability community, doing all of those things, as well as a lot of legislative activity and advocacy. So that's me. That's what I do. I absolutely love what I do. And more importantly, for this committee, the reason that I was hoping to become a part of it is because I'm, like I said, a big community person. I love bringing people together. I love being a part of a community. And so this is the way, a wonderful way that I thought I could begin doing that. So I saw a promotion on the Hubbardston People Facebook page recently that said, well, in the last few months, that said they were looking for more committee members for this one. And it really made me very interested in doing it. What I plan to bring, what I'd like to bring to this committee are really just my own core competencies. So I'm not a native to Hubbardston. I recognize that. I am a really good community organizer. I have a background in marketing. I have a background in development and fundraising. So whatever skill sets I can bring to add to the committee, those are the kinds of things that I'd like to bring forward already. And just listening, my intention tonight was to simply do the listening. And so there was a lot of questions about and opportunities to speak up. And I'm sitting here, sitting on my hands, literally, because it's not going to be long before I'm going to be raising my hand to volunteer and coming up with a lot of ideas around the things that are being discussed in the future. But my nature would have been to, or is to just jump in on all these discussions. So in my listening journey tonight, I wrote down, I've already got 2 pages of notes and ideas to put forward, but I don't like to jump in advance of really getting to know what this is all about and really doing some intentional listening. So I'm delighted to be here. I hope that I can bring forward, again, all of my core competencies to really advance the things and the challenges and meet those challenges and advance the hopes and dreams of this committee, so to speak. So that's me in a nutshell. Go ahead and hit me with any questions.
Well, I'm giving you a standing ovation, and it's not because my back is bad. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Terrific, terrific. Does anyone have any questions for Cheryl, or any comments or anything? I think that was terrific.
I think that this committee was in need of a person with your skill set. I think you can bring us a long way in this committee. Just hearing what you have to say about yourself and what you've done, and it's great. I mean, I grew up with a person with disabilities my whole life, so I know what it's like dealing with disability stuff. And my mother had a trouble for many years dealing with it because of it's just the way the state is and this and that. And I mean, New Hampshire does a better job than this state. So what does that tell you? So it's welcome aboard, and can't wait to see what you bring forward.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Thank you. That's such a great way, a great note to end our meeting on. I love that. Thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you.
Any concerns, community concerns, or input from anybody? Nothing? Okay. Motion to adjourn, please.
Make motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Welcome. Welcome, Cheryl. Thank you very much. Terrific meeting, everyone.